7 days. That's all you have left before the Australian superannuation system changes in ways that will directly affect your retirement balance. And most Australians have no idea it's even happening. If you're aged 50 or over, if you have a super fund, if you're planning to retire in the next 5 to 15 years, what happens on July 1st this year could either cost you thousands of dollars or hand you one of the biggest opportunities you've seen in years. The difference between those two outcomes comes down to one thing only: whether you know what's changing before it happens. So let's make sure you do. The superannuation system in Australia gets adjusted almost every financial year. New thresholds, new caps, new eligibility rules. Most of these changes get buried in government websites or handed off to financial advisors who charge you $300 an hour to explain them. What you rarely get is someone sitting down and walking you through exactly what's changing, what it means for you personally, and what you should actually do about it before the deadline hits. That's exactly what we're going to do right now. There are 3 major changes coming on July 1st that every Australian with a super fund needs to understand. Each one affects a different part of your retirement strategy, and at least one of them, I can almost guarantee, applies directly to your situation right now. Let's start with the first one. The concessional contributions cap is increasing. If you've been salary sacrificing into your super or making personal deductible contributions, the maximum amount you can put in at the concessional tax rate of 15% is going up. For the current financial year, that cap sits at $27,500. From July 1st, it moves higher. Now, on the surface, that sounds like good news, and it is. But here's the part that catches people off guard. Most Australians who are in their 50s and 60s are in their highest earning years. They're also in the window where adding money to super makes the most dramatic difference to their final retirement balance. The mathematical impact of an extra $5,000 or $10,000 going into super at a 15% tax rate versus sitting in your bank account being taxed at your marginal rate of 32%, 37%, or even 45% is enormous. But the mistake people make is waiting. They hear the cap is going up, and they think, great, I'll use that next year. What they don't realize is that the carry-forward rule means they may already have unused cap, space from the last 5 years sitting there, completely available to them right now, before July 1st, and they're letting it expire. If you haven't maximized your concessional contributions in any of the past 5 financial years, that unused space doesn't disappear immediately. It rolls forward. But it only rolls forward for 5 years. After that, it's gone forever. Check your MyGov account this week. Look at your ATO super section. Your available carry-forward balance is listed right there. Some Australians are sitting on $40,000, $50,000, even $60,000 in unused concessional space that they could contribute before June 30th, this financial year, and get a tax deduction for every single dollar of it. If you're on a 37% marginal tax rate and you contribute $30,000 in unused carry-forward, the tax saving alone could be over $6,000. Money that stays in your retirement fund instead of going to the ATO. That window closes in 7 days. But the concessional cap isn't even the change that surprises most people. The second major shift on July 1st involves the superannuation transfer balance cap. And this one is critically important if you're already in retirement phase, or if you're planning to move into it in the next 2 to 3 years. The transfer balance cap is the maximum amount of super, you're allowed to move into a tax-free retirement income stream, what's called an account-based pension. Beyond this cap, your super doesn't get the tax-free treatment. It stays in accumulation phase, where earnings are taxed at 15%. The personal transfer balance cap is not the same for everyone. It's indexed, and the way it's calculated catches people completely off guard. Here's why this matters right now. If you've never started a retirement income stream, if your super is still entirely in accumulation phase, your personal cap on July 1st will reflect the new indexed amount. That's potentially higher than the cap that applied last year. But if you've already started a pension, even a small one, your personal cap is frozen at whatever the general cap was when you first started that pension. You don't get the benefit of the indexation increase. This creates a significant planning window for people who haven't yet started drawing from their super. If you're approaching retirement and you delay starting your pension until after July 1st, your personal transfer balance cap locks in at the new, higher indexed amount. That could mean tens of thousands of dollars more in tax-free retirement income over the course of your retirement. On the other hand, if you start your pension before July 1st, even accidentally, even with a small balance, your cap freezes at the current lower amount. Permanently. This is exactly the kind of decision that gets made without full information, and it costs people real money for the rest of their retirement. Let's talk about what this actually looks like in practice. Consider someone, we'll call her Margaret. She's 63. She has $850,000 in super, all in accumulation phase. She hasn't started a pension yet. Her financial situation is comfortable enough that she doesn't need the income immediately, but her accountant mentioned she might want to start a small pension before June 30th. For some reason she didn't fully understand. If Margaret starts any pension before July 1st, her transfer balance cap freezes at the current cap amount. She locks in a lower ceiling on her tax-free retirement income forever. If Margaret waits until after July 1st, her cap resets to the new indexed amount. Over a 20-year retirement, the difference in tax-free earnings could amount to tens of thousands of dollars, simply because she waited 1 week. Margaret didn't lose money through bad investment decisions. She didn't make a dramatic error. She just didn't know about one rule, and it would have cost her significantly. The difference between knowing and not knowing isn't a small thing. In superannuation, it's the difference between a comfortable retirement and one where you're publicly quietly losing money to tax every single year without ever understanding why. Now here's the third change, and this one affects people who are still working, still building their super, and planning to downsize their family home at some point before they retire. The downsizer contribution rules have been evolving over the past few years, and from July 1st, there are updated conditions around eligibility and how these contributions interact with your total super balance. The downsizer scheme allows Australians who are 55 or older to contribute up to $300,000 each, or $600,000 as a couple, into their superannuation from the proceeds of selling their home. And critically, this contribution does not count toward your concessional or non-concessional caps. It sits completely outside the normal contribution limits. This is one of the most powerful super top-up strategies available to older Australians, particularly those who may have spent years raising a family, working part-time, or simply never had the cash flow to maximize their super contributions during their working life. But here's what most people don't check before they act. The downsizer contribution must be made within 90 days of settlement on your home sale. Miss that window, and you cannot make the contribution. There are no extensions. There are no exceptions based on hardship or misunderstanding. Additionally, the contribution does count toward your transfer balance cap once it enters your pension phase. So if you're already close to your cap, a $300,000 downsizer contribution needs to be planned carefully. Otherwise, you could find yourself with super money that can't move into tax-free pension phase, and you've lost the primary tax benefit of the strategy. From July 1st, the interaction between downsizer contributions and the newly indexed transfer balance cap creates both an opportunity and a risk, depending on where you sit right now. If you're considering selling your home in the next 12 months, this is the conversation to have with a financial advisor before you sign any contracts, not after settlement, when the 90-day clock is already ticking. So let's bring this together. 3 changes, 3 different groups of people they affect most, and one common thread running through all of them. The superannuation system in Australia rewards people who pay attention and act at the right time. It quietly penalizes people who don't, not through obvious penalties, but through lost opportunities that never come back. If you're approaching the end of this financial year with unused carry-forward concessional cap space, the window to act is this week. Log into MyGov. Check your ATO super details. If there's unused space there, talk to your accountant or a financial advisor about whether a financial deductible contribution before June 30th makes sense for your tax situation. If you haven't started a retirement income stream yet, and you're close to retirement, Think carefully before making any pension decisions in the next 7 days. Starting a pension before July 1st locks in your transfer balance cap at the current amount. For some people, that's the right move. For others, waiting 1 week could be worth thousands of dollars. And if you're considering selling your family home and using the downsizer contribution strategy, understand the 90-day settlement rule before you act, and understand how it interacts with your personal transfer balance cap before that money enters your super. The July 1st deadline isn't a scare tactic. It's a real date on the calendar that marks the start of a new financial year, with new rules, new caps, and new opportunities. Whether those opportunities benefit you depends entirely on whether you knew they were coming. You now know they're coming. The next step is yours. If any part of today's information raised a question about your own super situation, write it in the comments below. I read every one of them. And if you want to make sure you never miss another one of these deadline-critical updates, the subscribe button is right there. Your retirement deserves a compass, not guesswork.